Hello, thanks everyone for tuning in once again to Queen Amadai TV presents True Crimes. So let's get ready to get into it. Everyone, please come in, giving the video a like and a share. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live on this channel. And thank you all for hopping in the chats. Okay, so let's get into it, people. Now listen to this. Woman inspired by No Country for Old Men kills her husband and then tries to blame their son. Dance instructor Miriam Giles was suspected of trying to kill her husband, Alan Hemlick. Now, on the second try, she actually succeeded. So she tried this more than once, okay? And this was featured on an episode of Oxygen, right? Charmed to Death. That was the title of it. So now hope sprung eternal for a widow and widower who found each other after tragedy. Until death did they part. Successful businessman Alan Hemlick was still reeling from the death of his wife Sharon, who suffered a sudden heart attack after 30 years of marriage. Now, Alan struggled with grief and succumbed to a dark depression. And as friends suggested 2 years later, in January of 2005, Alan took up dance lessons to keep himself busy and just to preoccupy his mind. Clearly, he didn't want to be sitting at home depressed and just, thinking about the negativity that had ensued. Now, at a friend's suggestion, 2 years later, in January of 2005, Alan took up dance lessons just to stay busy, and he soon was smitten by his dance instructor, 48-year-old Miriam Giles. Miriam had just moved to Colorado from Jacksonville, Florida, and was also reeling from tragedy, the death of her daughter in 2000. Now, Miriam and Jack's daughter died of an overdose. This is according to former neighbor Aline Lee. This is what they told the people who made the show Charmed to Death. It's just really sad. She was the love of their life, especially Jack. She was daddy's little girl. It's just devastating for him. He went into a depression, they say. So then less than 2 years later, Jack Giles shot himself in bed and died instantly. Miriam was also in the bed at the time. Now, Alan and Miriam found solace in one another, and things moved quickly from there. Within 1 year, Alan and Miriam were married. Alan made all of Miriam's dreams come true, starting with the fact that he bought Miriam her own dance studio. 9 months later, he bought her her dream horse farm. Now, they say, I think she could become a chameleon. This is what one of her friends named Stephanie Soul said. It took me a long time to find Alan. He was the only one with a portfolio big enough to suit me. This is what Miriam said. So she took a long time to find him because he had a portfolio that was big enough to suit her. Clearly, she was in it for money. But soon, both the dance studio and the horse farm were bleeding the bank accounts dry. Now, Alan began suffering financially. And then to add to his troubles and woes, Alan's son, Alan Jr., was also suspicious of Miriam's intentions with his father. Started thinking that, oh, she's just a gold digger out to get money. Alan and his son had already had a strained relationship. So, of course, his son trying to tell him that his new wife is just draining his bank accounts and using him for money. Of course, he didn't want to hear that. But yes, she was a gold digger. Absolutely, TJ. So in April of 2008, Alan's finances tanked completely, which forced him to then sell his company. And at the end of the month, Alan took Miriam with him to collect a check for his interest in the title company. Now, they attended the meeting and received the funds. But just as they got into the car to leave, Miriam excused herself to go and use the restroom. As he waited for Miriam, Alan smelled smoke and then saw that the back of the car was on fire. He fled to safety. Now, when police officers arrived, they found a burnt piece of rope from the gas tank. Now, listen to this. They found a burnt piece of rope from the gas tank at the vehicle's trunk. Someone had intentionally tried to blow up the car with Allen inside. Now, mind you, his wife got out of the car right before this happened and said she was going to the restroom. They say it's obviously not a vehicle defect, said former police detective Sean Wales. It was intentional. During questioning, Miriam alluded to Allen's son, Allen Jr., trying to make the father think the son was the one who did it. She says he has had problems in the past. He's had drug problems. He's had run-ins with the law. This is what Miriam told the detectives. He's kind of a disappointment. Okay. Now, police suspected Miriam from the get-go. She had stopped at the trunk first, according to Allen. Then she crossed 4 lanes of traffic to use the bathroom. She crossed 4 lanes of traffic to use the bathroom. Oh, she was trying to make sure she was out of harm's way. Alvin said she tried to blow his ace away. Yes, she absolutely did, honey, and in broad daylight. But Allen didn't believe that Miriam set the car to fire. That was his foolishness. He didn't think she did it, honey. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and walks like a duck, oh, trust me, it's a duck. Now, after all, they had prenuptial agreements, and Allen arranged it so that his kids would inherit his money upon his death. There was no apparent motive, so he thought. Then 6 weeks later, Miriam went into town to run errands. When Allen didn't meet her for lunch, as was planned, she returned home and made a shocking discovery. The home was ransacked, and Allen was dead on the floor. Someone had shot him to death. How convenient. Now, it didn't take long for authorities to surmise that someone staged the crime scene just to make it look like a burglary. See, this is what foolish people think. You know, they don't realize that law enforcement is trained in crime scene investigations. In fact, they have a whole department that's just for that. So they foolishly think they can fake a crime scene and no one's going to know the difference. Believe it. This is what they do. So they tried to stage the crime scene to make it look like a burglary. Kitchen drawers and other places that didn't typically hold valued possessions were disturbed, while guns, jewelry, and other valuable items were untouched. Now, how stupid is that? So someone breaks into the home to burglarize it. They're going to go looking in the kitchen and the knife drawers for valuables. But meanwhile, there's jewelry and guns and all types of things of value, but nobody bothered those. Okay. Now, in a videotaped interview with police, Miriam once again alluded to the fact that it was likely Allen Jr. Clearly, it wasn't her. She had no reason to do such a thing. Now, she says, I do know that Allen Jr. stole from him to support his drug habits. This is what Miriam told the detectives. She claimed Allen Jr. was a rumored methamphetamine addict. During the interview, Miriam provided detectives with receipts of the places she'd shot around the time of the murder. Furthermore, a test confirmed that Miriam had no gunshot residue on her hands. Now, the widow said she became afraid in the days following the murder, fearing that whoever did it might come back. She told friends that she'd seen strange cars around her home and heard things in the night. Those fears were validated when Miriam brought a friend home to find a greeting card under the doormats. The envelope read, "To the grieving widow." Now, the message continued inside the card. It said, Allen was first. You're next. Run, run, run. Now, I don't know why she thought this was a good idea, because clearly, if someone came into the house and murdered your husband, they're going to leave you a note warning you that they're coming next for you. B. Dill says, oh, she threw him completely under the bus. Yes, absolutely. So she planted this note under her own doormat. And on the envelope, it said, to the grieving widow. She opens it and the card says, Allen was first. You're next. Run, run, run. So they're going to give her a warning that they're coming to kill her so she can exactly do that. Run. Make it all make sense. These people are so stupid, and clearly they think they're so smart. Pay attention. This is why the death penalty doesn't work. It's not a deterrent for crime. Because people who go out and kill other people think they're smart, despite being so stupid. They think they're smart and they think they're never going to get caught. So they don't care about the death penalty because clearly they don't think they're ever going to get sentenced to it. Okay? Now, afraid, Miriam hopped on a plane and returned to her native Florida. She reunited with her friend, Alan Lee, Align Lee. And within months of losing Adam, Miriam was back on the dating scene. Miriam said, I found this website. This is what Lee said, that she told him she found a website. And she even told me, he says, he's got to make at least over $500,000 a year. She's a gold digger, he said. Now, meanwhile, police back in Colorado were still investigating the murder of Alan Hemlick. Now, they turned every stone and all leads kept pointing to Miriam. Alan Jr. was cleared as a suspect when police learned that he was actually out of state at the time of his father's death. Lucky for him. Now, police focused on the mysterious greeting card that was sent to Miriam. They said this greeting card seemed very fishy, very hokey. That's what Mesa City Assistant District Attorney Rich Tuttle said. Police contacted the manufacturer of the card, and this exact card was sold at a city market close to the Hemlick's residence. Police obtained surveillance video from the store and examined activity around the time of Alan's murder. Sure enough, they traced the card right back to it being purchased by Miriam Hemlick, okay, in the wake of Alan's death. How stupid could you be? Like, you went and purchased the card yourself. Clearly, this woman doesn't watch the ID channel. Clearly, she doesn't watch the ID channel. They also believe that heaven is their right and privilege to go to no matter what they do. Absolutely, Phil. They absolutely do, right? Okay, so with that all being said, Miriam later told police that she made up the card because she didn't feel like authorities took the case seriously and she was scared. So she had her mayo-splaining in point. She claimed that she hoped the card would help police be more vigilant over her safety and the investigation. Now, how that doesn't make sense, first of all, because it's a lie. But second of all, if you made up the card yourself, which she did, why would you pack up your bags and move back to Florida as if you were really afraid for your life? Police became even more suspicious of Miriam's actions when they dug into her past, including the 2002 suicide of her first husband, Jack Giles, who allegedly put a gun to his head while Miriam was in the bed at his side. Now, an autopsy revealed that Jack died when a bullet entered the right side of his head. He was strictly left-handed. This is what Lee told producers. Now, soon Colorado police discovered that Miriam was the beneficiary, not just for her first husband's life insurance policy, but for her daughter's as well. She says, I feel that Miriam did prey on not only Alan, but I believe without a doubt that she shot and killed Mr. Giles, her first husband. This is what Detective Sean Wells said. Now, according to Lee, Miriam collected Jack's insurance after he died. Miriam blew through the money that she received for her daughter's death. She probably killed her daughter too. I mean, quite nefarious. Now, this actually should have been on an episode of The Root of All Evil, because clearly this was all done for money. Now, to say then she spent a lot of the money that she received from Jack's death when 6 months later, the court ordered Miriam to give half of Jack's insurance money to Jack's child from a former relationship. Oh, you know, she was upset about that. She didn't want to share. That's when Miriam left Florida for Colorado and soon danced into Alan Hemlick's life. Miriam's definitely conned Alan, said Wells. And I believe she sits and waits for the right man. They have to have money and they have to be somebody that she can easily control. Authorities learned that earlier in the year of Alan's death, she tried and failed to get $2 million in life insurance on Alan without ever telling him. On top of that, Miriam had forged checks to steal Alan's money. Now, on November the 8th of 2008, Colorado authorities arrested Miriam Hemlick in Florida for the murder of Alan Hemlick. Now, during the trial, prosecutors brought up the fact that she had forged checks and that the car caught fire when Miriam was suspected of setting it. And they said many of us at the DA's office had just recently watched a movie No Country for Old Men. This is what Rich Tuttle said. He says, in that movie, the villain blows up the car and there's a big explosion. We started thinking, I wonder if she watched that movie. And maybe that's what inspired her. Now, and lo and behold, continued Tuttle, just a few days before the murder, we found that someone at the Hemlick residence had actually rented the movie No Country for Old Men. So she absolutely was inspired by that movie. Okay? Now, the state also provided a motive. Miriam feared that Alan was about to uncover that she'd been forging checks and stealing his money. So in December of 2009, a jury found Miriam guilty of first-degree murder. She was then sentenced to life plus 108 years imprisonment. Police tried to charge Miriam for the murders of her first husband, Jack Giles, and their daughter. The case wasn't strong enough, and their causes of death remained suicide by gunshot and drug overdose. So clearly she killed them too. All of this done for money and greed. Killing your own husbands and your own child. Clearly nefarious. Very much so. Yes, Joe 32 said low vibrational serial killer. Absolutely. Okay. She murdered her first husband and probably her daughter too. And then she killed this husband. She's a demon. Yes, TJ, she absolutely is. This is what some people do for money, honey. Some people, they don't have any value on human life except for their own. They don't have any empathy or sympathy. Clearly, this woman was a psychopath. She was incapable of feeling empathy and sympathy. She has no conscience. That's why she was able to kill all these people. Because if you can kill your own child just to catch a bag, you clearly are a psychopath. And that's just the facts. So with that all being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please join me in the next chat because I'm going live on Queen Amadiah TV Presents The Root of All Evil. Okay? So make sure you tune in. I hope to see you all in the chats.